What's my name?
Umma.
Ooh. Okay, no one knows Descendants.
Umma.
Nobody watching this has ever seen a Descendants movie. I'm just kidding. Some of you probably have kids and have seen the Descendants movie and actually know what the fuck I'm talking about. Umma. When I saw this title, I immediately thought of the Descendants 2 character. But that is not what this is about. This is about Amanda and her daughter live a quiet life, not live in a quiet life.
They live in a quiet life.
Live a quiet life on an American farm, but when the remains of her estranged mother arrive from Korea, Amanda becomes haunted by the fear of turning in to her own mother. Motherfucker. All right, so
No, not a motherfucker.
we've been putting this off for a while because it has pretty bad ratings. Nothing too dreadful. It's only in 4.6. It's not like in the... It's on Netflix? Really?
Oh.
Shut up. Well, it's on Netflix. There you go.
Yeah.
4.6, I don't know. You can find good movies in there. It's a 50-50 with the
Sure.
with like the 4.5s, 4.6s. Now, this is directed by Iris Shim, who it looks like they did a movie called The House of Sue, which is a documentary. So it looks like this is their first feature film, like a scripted narrative film. And okay, what do you think?
Well, we sort of talked about it a little last night when we finished, and I think we both kind of agreed that the movie starts off with a lot of cool, kind of subtle eeriness and creepiness, and then the last act of the film, it sort of just
Devolves.
It devolves. I won't say that it's a horrible ending, because I don't really dislike the ending. I just felt like it becomes more of a drama,
Yeah.
even though there are supernatural elements in the film, and they are very much throughout the film, including the ending, but it just seemed to focus a lot more on the characters' relationships at the end, which is fine. It just wasn't the direction I was really expecting it to go, or maybe wanting it to go, so, that's just a bias that I have. But I like the, discussion around, like, motherhood and mother-daughter relationships, of course, because those, any parent-child relationship can get messy, and there can be a lot of trauma that's passed on from different generations, consciously and subconsciously. And I don't know, I liked the acting from everybody, and I did like the story between the mother and daughter. I thought it was, like, I cared about both of them, especially the daughter, I would say, because it just, I don't know, it felt really genuine to me.
Sure.
And there's some really creepy moments in the beginning, for sure, where things are sort of just shown in the background, and there's no stingers or like music cues or anything, so you just kind of notice them. And I really love when films do that, because it's, sometimes you catch them and sometimes you don't, but when you do, it's like really unsettling. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't hate the film. I kind of wanted more horror out of it, I guess, towards the end. And it does have it, but just not the way that I would have liked it. So I don't know.
Yeah. The movie goes for, a message.
For sure.
First and foremost, right? And anybody can guess that it's really just kind of playing off of that fear that we'll become our parents, that we're going to, recycle and commit a lot of the same sins and acts that our parents were guilty of through their youth, especially the ones that pertain to us being parents as well, and taking on a lot of their shortcomings. So that's it, of course, it's a big fear. I had a mother. I have a not a great relationship with my mother, to say the least. And of course, like, one of the fears is that, like, am I fucking my kids up like my mom fucked me up, right? Like, you worry about that kind of stuff. And this is really, really heavily playing off of that. Now, I definitely think there might be a bit of a cultural disconnect to a degree, because I do think that there's things in here that play to Korean culture that maybe us Americans don't pick up on as much. But whatever they are, I think they're minor, and I don't think it's going to affect the film drastically. Like, oh, you're from Korea, you'll probably like this movie a lot more. I don't think that. I just think you'll get more of certain cultural references, and that might connect you to the film a little bit more, but it will still remain fairly generic. And, I think even though the more flashier horror is in the final act, it's the least effective, right? It's the subtle horror that works very well in this film, and it's when they go for the more showboated horror of like the jump scares and the traditional kind of, I shouldn't say traditional, I should say more modern take on that, like, Conjuring-esque, like things are kind of being thrown at you. Now, it's not you're not getting a lot of it in the end. It is more dramatic, but that's where you get more of the jump scare type of stuff. The opening is building that creepy atmosphere through, no stingers, as you said, and really having those kind of subtle look in the background. Things are out of focus, then they come in focus, and you kind of notice them, and you're like, is that something? And then it becomes something. Sometimes it isn't something. So it really kind of plays on... And relies on the audience to really be checking every corner of the screen. I'm always a big fan of when horror doesn't keep everything centrifugally focused in the center, and that you have to search the frame, and it's when your eyes grab it, right? There's the Toni Collette scene in Hereditary where she's up on the ceiling, and your eyes don't catch it for a while, and it's for the viewer to look away from the center of vision where we're normally comfortable looking. That's where our eyes are drawn. And when there's something out here, it takes us a little while to find it because we're not used to looking outside that box, of the comfort box where your eyes are directed to in the frame. That's where you're supposed to put your action, is in the center. And I think that's why it's so effective, is when it's off center. It makes it more unsettling because our brain isn't used to it being out here. They usually focus on it more centrically. So within this one, they kind of play on that a little bit. There are out of focus shots. There are things over here that maybe you see, maybe you don't. And they did a very good job with that. And I was like, maybe people didn't get this one when we were 30, 40 minutes in. I was like, oh, this could be one we could be coming and being like, hey, we're fans. But unfortunately, the end does kind of blow it. As far as the horror goes, the drama, it's well acted, like you said. Sandra Oh, who is the star of this, which is, she definitely was pretty involved in this. She was also the executive producer, so this wasn't just a phone-it-in paycheck film for her. She was behind the scenes making sure this fit a vision. This is probably a personal story for her. I'm going to assume. It's a total guess. I have no, proof of that, but I just would assume. And I think they went for that emotional punch of the family and the connection, and you don't want to turn into your mom and the relationship she has with her daughter. And they kind of set up what would be thought of as maybe a twist potentially with this electricity thing, because they live in a house where they don't have electricity, and she says electricity makes me sick, and the daughter and her live out in the middle of nowhere, and they only have interactions with one other person, and they're they have a beehive where they're creating honey for a living, and they literally have zero power on the property, which would actually bring me to a critique within the film, because I don't know, it would play to something later that I'm like, I don't know why they would have that. But whatever. Regardless, I just think that it kind of failed. It fails pretty heavily in the third act horror wise, and I think it succeeds okay dramatically. Yeah. So it's like I could be fine if the drama really hit, and it was like, well, the horror was kind of shit in the end, but the drama really hit. Like, I really connected with these people, and I really felt for this moment, and I really felt like they had this thing going. If they landed that, I would have been able to forgive the lack of horror, or the execution of horror. But because that didn't land, and the drama in the end was not up to snuff for what they were trying to pull off, and they had the talent to pull it off, it just kind of makes the film forgettable, right? And that's a really bad sin to commit, is when your film is forgettable. Because I remember Troll 2, I remember The Room, right? You remember the really bad movies, so they make an impression, and then the really great movies make an impression, and a movie like this, you're like, yeah, I saw that. I don't remember what it's about, though. Or like, did I see that? That's the worst. You watched a movie, totally, and then a year later, you're like,
I don't remember.
And I remember almost every movie I've ever watched my entire life, and I've watched more movies than most people.
Yeah.
So if I don't remember your movie, fuck. That's bad. So this is forgettable.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I liked the drama and the chemistry between the mother and daughter. I didn't think it was anything like, it's not super okay, it's like, it's relatable for me in the sense that I am a daughter who has a mother, but I don't have that type of, like, it's weird because the relationship between them isn't really negative. It's just a little oppressive at times.
Sure. And
fearful, but even still, I don't really have that relationship with my mom. So it's, I didn't connect on that level, but yeah, I mean, I think that it's ultimately one that, when we do our end of the year, like, movie recap, we'll kind of be like, oh yeah, that, all right, but
I don't think it will be mentioned at all.
No, I don't think it's going to be mentioned on our list. I just think that, like, maybe when we go through and, like, review the movies that we've looked at, that we've watched, we might be like, oh yeah, that one.
We shall say.
But maybe not. So it's not a huge recommend, but I mean, it's not a waste of, I don't think it's a waste of time. I just think that it's not remarkable.
I don't think you should watch it. I say no. I say pass.
Maybe. If it looks good to you.
Yeah.
That's really more what I think.
Pass.
Bye.